Let's go to Genesis chapter 6. So we're in the book of Genesis. So I'm just moving around, taking bits and pieces based on what the Lord deals with my heart about. And so today I want to speak about God can do more than you can see. God can do more than you can see. God can do more than you can see. Let's read this together. Genesis 6:11 to 22 says, "The earth also was corrupt before God, like it is now, and the earth was filled with violence, like it is now." You know what's very interesting? That the Hebrew word for violence is Hamas. It's that it's Hamas. I'm like, is that coincidence or what? That's what it's Hamas. That's the Hebrew word for violence. Well, yeah. You learned that in the Hebrew class. Yeah. The Hebrew word for violence is Hamas. And what are they for? Violence. Right? They're for violence. And so the earth was filled with Hamas. And so that's what it literally says. The earth was filled with Hamas, with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with Hamas, with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it to a cubit from above, and set the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. And behold, I myself am bringing flood waters on the earth to destroy from under heaven all flesh in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die." Now, when he says everything on the earth, he's talking about the land, right? He's not talking about the things in the sea. He's talking about the things on the land. Okay. Everything is on the earth shall die, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you and your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. Of the birds after their kind, of animals after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind. 2 of every kind will come to you to keep them alive. And you shall take for yourself of all the food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and for them. This Noah did according to all that God commanded him, so he did. And when I look at that, I think about a few things. First thing, God, again, as I've been teaching on Sunday, God says, I am going to do what? Destroy all that breathes upon the earth. But guess what? He cannot do it until he finds favor with Noah, so that Noah can facilitate his action. And we got to get this, that God needs us to do something in order for him to do something. In other words, God needs us to do what he says in order for him to do what he says. Now, I want you to understand the awesomeness of this. Now, Noah doesn't know what a flood is. He doesn't know what a flood is. He's being told to build something that's never been built before. And another thing that we want to get, God is very specific. God didn't say just build a boat. God tells him all the dimensions of the boat, how many levels it. He even so specific, I want the window to be 1 cubit from the top. Why? Because we don't want it low. It's got to be up from the top. And he says, I'm going to bring of every living thing of male and female on the earth, of every creeping thing, that means ants, roaches, everything, brought them into the ark. And understand, there's lions, tigers, snakes, bears, all these animals that want to eat each other. And so what does happen during that time of that almost a year or so that they're on this ark? They had Eden again. They had Eden again. The animals didn't eat each other on that ark. Eden was restored on that ark. He brought the food, and they ate that food. Everybody ate the same food on that ark, and no animal ate any other animal until after they left. God, when God is into something, God restores Eden again. And that's when Jesus Christ came. Notice when Jesus Christ came, what did he do? He caused the blind to see, the deaf to hear. He caused those who are hungry to supernaturally be fed. Understand, when the glory of God comes, Eden is restored. The garden of God is restored. So God restores the garden of God on that ark. Just like when he comes at the end of the age, he's going to restore the garden of God again here on earth. And understand, in the garden of God, there is no death. Notice what he said in the new heavens and new earth. There's none shall hurt on my holy mountain. None shall cause hurt. And I want you to get this, and this is one of the biggest thing I got out of this. We have been taught, and I've taught, and there's some truth to it, but it's not complete truth, that in order for us to see what we want, we have to first see what we want. We've got to see it on the inside. We've got to have a picture. And we use the example of Abraham, that Abraham received Isaac in a figurative sense, and that he came to the conclusion that God was able to raise him from the dead. Now watch this. Noah had no conception. Noah had no idea of what a flood was. He had no idea of how God was going to wipe out humanity, because there was never any flood. There was never any rain. There could not be any flood. Why? Because there was never any. What causes flood? Torrential downpour. There was never a torrential downpour. How were things watered? A mist came up out of the earth and watered the land. So when God said, I'm going to flood the earth, he couldn't even imagine it. He had no frame of reference. In order for you to imagine something, or have an inner picture of something, you've got to have a frame of reference. Noah had no frame of reference. And because Noah had no frame of reference, He had no idea. He could not picture it. He could not conceive it. He could not mentally, there's no way for him to have any image of what God was talking about. And what I got from that is this: God is not limited to your mind. God is not limited to your ability to conceive what he has said. Noah obeyed God not because he could see what God said. He had to just believe what God said. And what that says to me, I can believe what I don't see because God said it. I can believe and have what I cannot even conceive of because God said it. Noah had to go purely by what God said because he had no idea, no concept of what a flood was. I'm going to open the windows of heaven and break up the depths of the... What in the world is that? When we look at Hebrews chapter 11 explaining what Noah did, he said, Hebrews 11 says, by faith, Noah being divinely warned of things not yet seen. Because it never been seen before. Nobody had ever seen a flood. Nobody even know what a flood is. They've never seen the river overflowing itself. He said, being warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which belonged to faith. Notice, God could not condemn the world until Noah built that ark. See, because God needed somebody through which the seed of Abraham would come. He needed somebody through which the seed of the woman would come. And I want us to get this. God is not limited to your conception. He's not limited to how you can conceive it. He's not limited to if you can't picture it. In other words, if it's never been done before, God could do it. If no one has ever been healed from that particular sickness before, God can do it. If something has never been done before, God can do it because he brought everything into being. He says, I am the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me to do? And understand, and we got to get that. I don't need to see myself healed in order to be healed. Because sometimes you may have a disease that you can't even picture. You may have a situation that you can't even conceive. And that's why it says in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20 says, now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think according to the power that works in us. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all that we could ask or think by the power that's working on the inside of us. But you see, we want to see something. We want to feel something. He's being warned of something that's not yet seen. No one had ever seen it. No one has ever conceived it. It has never happened before. But yet still Noah acts. He acts on it. What did he do? It says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 22, it says, Genesis 22, it says, thus Noah did according to all that God commanded him, so he did. To me, that's powerful. He did according to all that God commanded him. And I realized God could not manifest his glory God could not do what he said he would do until Noah did what God said to do. I'm going to say that again. God could not do what he said he would do until Noah did all that God said he was supposed to do. And I had to stop and think about that we want to see the manifestation of God's glory. We want to see God's power manifest. Notice it, he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that's working on the inside of us. There's a power that is at work inside of us, but we're not seeing the manifestation of this power because we're not doing what he said to do. We've got to do what he said to do. Whatever God has told us to do, we've got to do it, or we're not going to see the manifestation of this power. If Noah did not do what God told him to do, God could not do what he said he would do. He'd have to wait till there was another Noah, another person that would do what he said to do in order for him to do what he said to do. God said that he has given us power to be witness. God said that these signs shall follow those who believe in his name. We could cast out demons, speak with new tongues, handle snakes, partake of any deadly thing, and will not harm us. Lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. He said we would do those things. But understand that one of the reasons why we're not seeing those things is because we're not doing what he said for us to do. We've got to do whatever God told us to do in our personal lives, what he's told us to do in his word. One of the things, quickly as I wind this down, what the Lord showed me this morning, that every sin is an attack against Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, 28. Every sin is an attack against Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 28, where God said, and God said, let us make man in our image and according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over every living thing that creeps upon the earth. And so then God made him male and female. Then God made man, made him male and female, and God blessed them. So God made man in his image, and he made them male and female, and he blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over birds of the air, over every living thing. Every sin is an attack against that. Because when Adam sinned, what happened? He was no longer able to subdue the earth and to have dominion. Was he able to be fruitful and multiply and increase? Yeah, but not subdue and have dominion. But every sin is an attack against those one aspect or all those. Think about it. I was thinking about it, that think about even sexual sins. Sexual sins, what does a sexual sin do? Think about it, that, for instance, adultery and fornication, what does it do? It produces children outside of marriage. And what happens with children outside of marriage? They have higher rate of poverty, higher rates of suicide, higher rates of dropping out of school, especially boys. Boys do horrible with single mothers. Boys just do not do well. Girls, okay. Boys, no. And so, and think about it. I was in the doctor's office, and when I was in the doctor's office, I looked, it said 95% of cervical cancer is from HPV. And so it has all these girls holding hands together. Well, HPV is the human papillomavirus. Well, how do you get human papillomavirus? Sexually transmitted what? You see? So instead of saying, you know what, guys, stop having sex with whomever moves. No, what do? Just, we got to stand early detection. Early detection. If you know that 95% of this sexually transmitted disease happens from sex with multiple people, why are you addressing, well, they'll figure, well, we're going to do it. They're sinners. They're going to do it anyways. But the reality is this. The wages of sin is what? Death. And if having sex outside of marriage was not wrong, it wouldn't produce death. It wouldn't produce poverty. It wouldn't produce suicides and imprisonment and criminals. Now, does every young man that has a single parent become a criminal? No, but too many of them do. It's an attack against the dominion mandate. In you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Every sin is an attack against the dominion mandate. Be fruitful, multiply. If I come and steal from you, I'm preventing you from being fruitful, multiplying, increasing. It's an attack against you fulfilling the dominion mandate. If I take your life, I'm stopping you from fulfilling the dominion mandate. It's an attack against the fulfillment of the dominion mandate. Murder is stopping the earth from being fruitful, multiply, and increasing. Suicide is an attack against the earth increasing. The worshiping of demons and idolatry is an attack against the dominion mandate. Be fruitful and fill the earth and subdue it. God wants us to fulfill that dominion mandate. Casting out demons, speaking with new tongues, which is moving in the gifts of the Spirit, handling snakes, partaking of a deadly thing, laying hands on the sick and they recover is what? A restoration of the dominion what? Mandate. But the only way for us to walk as sons and daughters of God is through obedience to Christ. And what I want you to do is two things tonight. One, let us stop limiting God to what we can see. Just because I can't see it, that doesn't mean it's not possible. Noah was warned of things not yet seen. He couldn't see it, but he believed what God said. Maybe you can't see yourself healed. Maybe because, you know, when you're in a situation for so long, you can't even see yourself outside of that sickness. When you're in a financial situation so long, you can't even see yourself outside of the financial situation. What happens when, you know, people say just think positive. Just imagine yourself healed. But maybe you can't because you're in so much pain. Maybe you say, just imagine yourself wealthy. Maybe you can't because you're just living from hand to mouth. You can't scrape 2 dimes together. So it's hard for you to see yourself outside of your current experience. So what do you do then? What if you can't see yourself healed? What if you can't see yourself not depressed? What if you can't see yourself not fearful? God's not limited to how you see you. I want you to start to sink in. God is not limited to how you see yourself. He can still bring you out of it. It helps that you see, but he's not limited. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. He's able. He's able. So let's not limit God to what we can see and how we see ourselves. The second thing is that we've got to do what God said to do. Because God cannot do for us until we do for him. I'm going to say it again. God cannot do what he wants to do for us until we do what he wants us to do for him. And when God tells us to do something, we see it right through the Bible. If God, Jesus said, take up your bed and walk. What if the guy never took up the bed? He never walked. He says, go and wash your eyes. What if he didn't go wash his eyes? What if the disciples, he told the disciples, I want you, he started breaking the bread and go, here, go give it to them. And they took it in their hand and said, well, we can't feed all these people with this. And they didn't move. They would have never seen the glory of God. And that's my point. Until we do what he tells us to do, we won't see the glory of God. If Noah didn't do what God told him to do, he would have never seen the glory of God on that ark. And one of the reasons why we're not seeing the glory of God in our lives is because we're not being diligent. You know, over the last little while, I know I said I was going to end, but I'm saying, but over the last little while, I've been asking people who've come up for prayer, I said, are you confessing the healing scriptures at least 4 times a day? And not one person said they were. Not one person said they were. They might do it twice a day. But God says, you shall lay up these words of mine. You shall speak them when you rise up, when you lie down, when you walk on the way, when you sit down. At least. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word. You cannot work faith up. You can't work it up. It just comes. But how does it come? By what? Hearing. If I want to have faith for protection, I got to be speaking protection scriptures. If I want faith for healing, I got to speak healing scriptures. If I want faith for prosperity, I got to be speaking prosperity scriptures. But it's not whenever and however I feel like it. We got to do it the way God said it. You shall speak. What is it? This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate upon it what? Day and night. Day, when it's day, and when it's night. Well, I'm going to do all my 4 times during the day. Well, he said day and night. So if you do it 4 times in the day, you still got to do it at night. Why? Because he said so. Well, why can't I just do it 20 times during the day and don't do it at night? Because he said day and night. And see, that's what we don't get. We need to do it the way he said to do it. Notice God said, make sure you build it according to pattern. Make sure you build it according to my instruction. What if Noah decided to make the boat 60 feet or 40 feet, 40 cubits, 400 cubits instead of the 300 cubits, or 40 cubits high instead of the 30 cubits high? God knows why he told them that dimensions. Noah had to build it according to what? Instruction. Moses had to build the tabernacle according to what? Instruction. If God say walk 20, take 20 steps, don't take 21 or 19. God knows that maybe you take 21 and you fall off the cliff. The point is that we've got to do it the way God said it, not how we feel it, not the way we think it should be done. And we're wondering why we're not getting the results is because we're doing it the way we feel like it. Well, God understands. Yeah, he understands 300 cubits long, 30 cubits high, 1 cubit from the top. Make sure you make the window 1 cubit from the top. Not halfway down, because water is going to come into that boat. Make sure you have 3 levels. We've got to do it the way he said it, not the way we feel like it, not the way we want to get it done. And until we do it the way God said it, we're not going to see his glory. And so that's what I want us to pray tonight. We want to pray about that we would not limit God to what we can see or conceive, and to pray about that we would know, we would be obedient.